Sorry. Hi, my name is Jose Calzadilla. Jim Fitzsimmons regretfully can't be here today, and he asked me to step in. Jim was just down in Alabama with his father who had been ill, and his father just passed yesterday morning. So if we could all keep him in our prayers. And before I start introducing speakers, I'd just like to, for all of us, just to pray on our Father together. Okay? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. All right. So let me start. Thank you all for coming out today. We have three speakers, and our first speaker is going to be Ryan Everson. Ryan is a proud graduate of ASU, and after graduating from Arizona State University, he moved to Washington, D.C., and worked as a political journalist for the Washington Examiner, specializing in pro-life policy, and the Lord has allowed his pro-life writing to be shared by several other national news publications, including Real Clear Politics, Live Action News, and the National Catholic Register. And after a few months in DC, Ryan moved back to the great state of Arizona to accept the position as legal review director for the Alliance Defending Freedom, the largest pro-life Christian legal organization in the world, which is headquarters in beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. And Ryan is also the president of Phoenix Pro-Life Future, which is a local affiliate of Students for Life in America that is committed to empowering pro-life young adults, so basically folks out of college, with advocacy centered on service, education, and most importantly, prayer. So let's welcome Ryan.
Thank you, Jose, for the very kind introduction. Thank you all for being here today. It's a great pleasure to be all here with all of you for this special kickoff event to celebrate this very special time of year for the pro-life community as we enter this very prayerful season of 40 Days for Life, as we also start the beginning of Lent as well. As we enter the season of 40 Days for Life, I want to take this occasion to share with you some thoughts on a topic that is at the heart of not just effective pro-life ministry, but at the heart of effective ministry in any kind of humanitarian or charitable work, and that is prayer. One of the things I particularly love about the 40 Days for Life campaign, the 40 Days for Life community, is that it recognizes the profound importance of prayer and serving those in need. And so it is my prayer today that these thoughts are of some help and benefit to you each as you go about your work in the pro-life ministry this season. As Jose mentioned, for a short period of time, I was a political journalist in Washington, D.C. Every morning I would get up and check Twitter, where DC journalists spend an unhealthy amount of their time, and see what pro-life things were going on that I could write about for my work that day. And if there wasn't anything new pro-life going on, I tried to weasel away to write something pro-life anyways to see if I could talk my editors into it. And last summer, as you may be aware, there was a lot of things, both good and bad, that were happening in terms of abortion legislation. So when Illinois legalized abortion under practically all circumstances, I was the guy in the office who wrote about it. On the other hand, when Alabama banned it under almost all circumstances, I was the guy writing about that. And when late-night comedians such as John Oliver would come up with outrageous lies about these bills, including allegations that new pro-life legislation would effectively throw women in jail for having a miscarriage, I would write about that too, and do what small part I could to try to set the record straight. John Oliver may be just one comedian, but as I covered these events in D.C., I realized that his comments were the product of a much wider social trend displayed by abortion advocates. Back in the days of President Clinton, the mantra of abortion advocates was safe, legal, and rare. They called themselves mere advocates of choice, who recognized abortion was a messy thing, recognized that abortion was an incredibly hard decision, and sometimes even supported efforts to decrease the number of abortions performed in light of those considerations. But today, a better mantra for the abortion movement would be unsafe, taxpayer-funded, and quite frequent. And sadly, their political and legal efforts follow this new aggressive line of thinking. States such as Louisiana passed bipartisan legislation to regulate the competence of abortionists to protect women from unhealthy practices, and the abortion advocates allege that such a regulation is unconstitutional. Parenthood now receives over $600 million in taxpayer federal funding every year. That's $1.7 million every day. And yet they still say this is not enough. And when New York passed its so-called Reproductive Health Act, allowing viable and pain-capable preborn children to be legally killed for essentially any reason, they lit the Empire State Building pink in celebration. Abortion is a grave and dark enough subject as it is, as everyone in this room already knows. And when you add events like this to the mix, it can be easy to feel discouraged or to feel angry. In fact, it is human to feel these emotions. And in these human emotional moments, the devil sometimes tries to take advantage of us. While God calls us to look for Him for hope to lift us up in these moments, when we feel these challenging thoughts and emotions, the devil invites us to dwell on our discouragement, to dwell on our anger. And when we accept the devil's invitation, sometimes unknowingly, to dwell on these feelings, we are not only unable to help advance the pro-life movement as God calls us to, we can actually sometimes do the pro-life movement some significant harm. A few weeks ago, I was scrolling through my Facebook feed and I saw a post from a somewhat reputable pro-life advocate. And I read the first line of the post, and the first line of the post said, quote, "Dear pro-aborts." Dear pro-aborts. And that line made me feel a lot of emotions, but the biggest thing it made me feel was sad. I'd like to share with you why that made me feel sad. I can't tell you what the rest of that post said. I stopped reading it after the first line, and I imagine that's what any pro-choice person probably did too. Whatever this person subsequently said about abortion may very well have been true, may have been informative, may have been very logical even. But his message was partly, if not entirely, lacking something else that is even more important, and that thing is love. A few days later, I was praying in the Adoration Chapel and thinking of this when I came across the beginning of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, which you have almost certainly heard before. Here it is. "If I speak in human and angelic tongues, but do not have love, I am a resounding gong or a clashing cymbal. And if I have the gift of prophecy and comprehend all mysteries and all knowledge, if I have all faith so as to move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away everything I own, if I hand my body over so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. It is not jealous. It is not pompous. It is not inflated. It is not rude. It does not seek its own interests. It is not quick-tempered. It does not brood over injury. It does not rejoice over wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Love never fails." In that last sentence, God makes us a promise. If love never fails, it's frankly silly to think that trying something else would give us better results. As I mentioned before, we are all going to feel emotions such as sadness and anger, as we should. But it is one thing to feel these emotions, it is another to have our words and our actions be rooted in these emotions at the expense of love. The Bible does not say anger never fails, because it does. The Bible does not say fear never fails, because it also does. But it very clearly says that love never fails. And that is why there's no more powerful tool for an effective pro-life advocate than love. Because God, our Father, Himself is love. I mentioned before that in our moments of darkness, sadness, and anger, the devil tries to manipulate us. And he does this by inflaming these emotions to the exclusion of love. And perhaps you are devoutly pro-life, devoutly praying, going to the clinic every week perhaps even, and the devil knows there's absolutely nothing he can do to stop that, absolutely nothing he can do to change your mind on abortion. And that's good. That's very, very, very good. And that characterizes probably most, if not all, the people in this room right now. But the devil does not see that and simply give up. He looks for other ways to carry out his plans. He sharpens our tongue to criticize those who disagree with us and covers our ears so we cannot listen to them. Consequently, hearts are hardened and more children die from abortion than may have otherwise. Satan takes what is good, a desire to advocate for the unborn, and taints it, perverts it, and uses it for his own causes rather than for God's. This is not new. In fact, it is exactly how Satan amplifies sin in many areas of our lives. Taking love, a virtue, and turning it into lust. Taking courage, another virtue, and turning it into arrogance. And so the list goes on and on. Now, it is my hope, prayer, and belief that no one in this room is running around Facebook calling people pro-aborts. But we are all human, and so it follows that we all fall victim to vices and temptations that prevent us from serving God and His children, including the unborn, as well as we can, and as well as He calls us to. And so as we begin our increased ministry during these 40 Days for Life, My prayer is that we all go about our work with a greater sense of love. When Jesus reached out to the prostitutes, the adulterers, the tax collectors, and the like, he did not convert them with angry and self-righteous pontificating. He wanted to change them, to help them, and he knew that that would not accomplish his goal. These people completely changed their actions because when Jesus did reach out to them, he reached out to them with love. And I pray that we are all able to better mirror our Lord's wonderful example as we continue our work for the unborn every day. Please bow your heads and join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for gathering here today a body of your disciples committed to protecting the most vulnerable of children here on earth, the unborn. Grant that as we go about our work through these 40 days for life and through the holy season of Lent, that we may touch and permanently change the lives of those around us. Please help each of us gather here to become more open to your will, to listen patiently for your voice as you guide us to be your hands and feet here on earth. We pray that the lives will be saved here in Arizona and all over the nation as a result of this campaign. And we pray for your daughters here on earth, for pregnant women walking in our midst who are feeling shame and fear each and every day. We pray that they no longer walk around feeling such feelings, that they would instead encounter your overwhelming love and mercy that you have shown to each and every person in this room. And we pray that the people gathered here today would help you to do that, to pour out your love and mercy, so that all people, all women, all unborn children may feel that love, that the unborn may experience the life that you have planned for them, and that they may experience the love that you have to offer them. We ask this through Christ our Lord and Lord. Amen. Amen. Thank you all for your witness and example and for being here today. I appreciate it.
All right. So our second speaker is Mayra, who is the former director of 3 Planned Parenthood clinics, was Planned Parenthood's 2016 Employer of the Year, and is a courageous whistleblower who won the 2019 wrongful termination lawsuit against Planned Parenthood. Nice. So during her 17 years at Planned Parenthood, Ms. Rodriguez witnessed critical safety and health-related violations, including incomplete abortions, falsification of patient records, illegal conduct, unreported statutory rape, women severely injured by abortion, and high complication rates with a particular abortionist. Mayra's reports of these incidents were met with harassments, hostility, and intimidation from Planned Parenthood, and in a 2019 lawsuit against the abortion giant, a predominantly pro-choice jury unanimously found Planned Parenthood guilty for terminating her employment in retaliation for whistleblowing activity. Mayra credits the faith of those praying on the sidewalk, referred to by Planned Parenthood as the crazies, that's you, and the divine mercy of Jesus Christ for her reversion to the faith and for the strength it took to stand against the abortion Goliath and win. Mayra's mission is to make abortion unthinkable, to advocate for women, and to expose the truth of Planned Parenthood's treatment of women and what Planned Parenthood doesn't want you to know about the dangers of abortion and contraceptive use. Ladies and gentlemen, the courageous Mayra.
Hi, how are you? Good. It's raining in Phoenix. I was not expecting that when I was driving around here. I just moved to California and there's traffic all the time. So I was like, okay, fine, I have time because there's no traffic in Phoenix. Wow. It was raining. So thank you so much for being here, even though it's raining and pouring and we don't like Phoenicians don't like to come out of their house when it's raining. But we still do. You know, that just shows the brave that it's in your heart and that I truly appreciate you, each one of you. My life has changed because of a lot of you and your prayers. I know a lot of you didn't even know me, start praying for me when you heard what I was going through. And my family, I thank you. We will thank you forever. About 5 to 6 years ago, a group of people had prayed for 40 days outside of the clinic in Northeast Phoenix. Now that clinic didn't perform any abortions. And they were from St. John of Arc, and it was Father Klein who guided that group. And they used to be there every evening praying during the 40 days for life. You know, I always wonder why they were there. I was born Catholic, so I knew Father Klein from going to Mass at St. Joan of Arc. I was born and raised Catholic. My mother didn't like me working at Parenthood. She prayed for me. She's a very devoted Catholic person, and especially the Virgin of Guadalupe, that's her name. And she's, yeah. And as Mexican, coming from Mexico City, the Virgin of Guadalupe is our patron. You know, so my mother will pray and light candles for me, you know, every time that I have to go to work, you know, and then you just pray that someday, somehow, I'll find something better to do with my life than work for them. So she, along with other people, has been the people that have kept me with their prayers and took me out of that place. On my first day at Planned Parenthood, which was about 17 or so years ago, in 2000, I showed up there with my paperwork, my Mexican credentials that I keep saying all over the news, that they requested to see from me, to see if I was a match for a job. And there was this lady praying outside, and then, you know, she was, I wouldn't say screaming, but loudly said, "Let me help you, don't go in there, please, we can help." And I'm like, okay, that's weird. That was my first time there. I hardly knew anything about Planned Parenthood, but that they help women. I honestly didn't know they did abortions. I only knew that they were a women's clinic. And then I walked in there, and then I was told not to talk to the crazy lady, because that's what she is. She's crazy, she prays there, and she just bothers patients, and bothers people, and bothers the staff. Don't listen to her, don't interact with her. You know, I was getting hired, and I was told that's what we're supposed to do. You know, don't listen to them, don't interact with them, because they're crazies. That's what they call them, the crazies. The crazies outside. Why do they call you the crazies? Because you are there praying when it's raining. You are there praying when it's 116 degrees. You have to be crazy. I mean, who does that? Who stands in the heat of 116 degrees on a sunny day in the middle of July to pray for women that walk in there and tell them, we can help you because we love you? You have to be crazy. It's only a crazy person can go through all that for a day just to pray, right? So the same group of people that I will see outside of the Northeast Phoenix facility, I will see them at Mass. I'm not gonna lie to you, it was awkward. You know, because I will see them praying, and I'll have to see them at Mass, and am I supposed to say hi to them? Do you think they know who I am? Do you think they know I work there? What if they want? They say, we don't want you here, don't come in here. But not once, no one ever said that to me. Not once did anybody approach to me at church and say, hey, we don't want you here because you work for that place. We don't want you here because you are killing babies. No one ever said that to me at church. Certainly Father Klein never even mentioned it. And I knew he recognized me. I can see it on his face. But I can see now that he was praying when he looked at me the way he did, right? So on one of those evenings, about 5 to 6 years ago, a Divine Mercy card was left on my windshield. I don't know if a lot of you have heard that about my story, but I carry it with me all the time. It's in my wallet on my cell phones, and then, you know, you never forget your cell phone, you never forget my Divine Mercy card anymore. They left it on the windshield, and I liked it, and I liked it because I remember seeing that image in almost every Catholic church since I grew up. There's even a church in Mexico City that has it in humongous dimensions, you know, just like in the Basilica of Guadalupe. I'm grateful that I have been there since I was a little kid, and so that image really stuck to me, and I'm usually supposed to keep back anything left of my car, because that's what we're supposed to do. Don't keep anything, don't read anything, don't leave it in the clinic, don't let patients see it, don't do this, you know, but I liked it. So I didn't even mention that I found it on the windshield of my car. I kept it on my desk, you know, and then throughout the years, the car got misplaced. I didn't know where it went. And a few years later, on 2017, October 3rd to be exact, as I was handing over the keys to the owner of the property, I found the Divine Mercy card on my drawer. And I grabbed it and I took it with me. I knew I had a meeting, and I had a really bad feeling about that meeting, because for the last month they had been, I will call corporate harassing me every day that I worked there. you know, and so I knew that there was something else going on, but I couldn't just quite put my finger on it, you know. So I walked into that meeting, I grabbed that card, I read the prayer that it's on the back, then I say, Jesus en ti confío. You know my hardships, you know where my family and I need, and you know my situation. But today I'm gonna do what I haven't done in a very long time, and probably since I was a little kid, and it was to let go and let God drive me. You know, that day I decided that whatever He chose for me, you know, that I was gonna just deal with it. You know, so the meeting went on. I was accused of stealing narcotics, placing narcotics, misplacing narcotics, and mishandling narcotics. To me and to a lot of people, that is a very strong accusation, especially when so many people are suffering from being addicted to narcotics. So to me, it's like, you can't accuse me of something that serious. It's not like saying, oh, we found somebody's lunchbox in your desk, so you stole it. No, this is, you misplaced narcotics that kills life, you know, that threatens life. So I took it very serious, and I knew where this was going, and I knew the path that they were going, because I've seen it before, you know, I've seen it. I read it, Abby Johnson's book, long time ago when it was prohibited to read. And so I knew it was a pattern that they do, you know. I knew that they were harassing me, that they had accused me of a lot of stuff before, and then this was like the top of the top. So then when I spoke to you or to the patients or to the people that support them, no one will believe me, because they said, she's a sour employee that mishandled narcotics. So I left, and then I looked at the car in my car again, crying, and I said, okay. I said I trusted you. I meant it. So you tell me what to do, you know? For many years I was told, the crazies, you don't help. They're just saying that. They just pray. They don't help. They, you know, comment the bombing not true, you approach them and tell them, okay, here I am, help me. They're gonna be like, oh, sorry, we were kidding. We didn't mean it. You know? So at that moment, I mean, I have seen that crazy lady when I took over for Glendale on 2016. And I showed up on my very first day to manage the Glendale facility. And knowing that it was the biggest abortion clinic. And the very first person I saw on my very first day as the manager, it was a crazy lady I met on 2000. Her name's Lynn. And she was standing there, and she said, good morning. Throughout the months and the weeks and the days went by, we became polite to each other. We started saying good morning. She said, I'm praying for you. And I said, I really thank you. I will warn her when the doctors inside were getting upset to her. I will let her just slide her chair that 2 inches that she wasn't supposed to, so that someone hit her. You know, and so we just became polite to each other. But I mean, I know she every day she said, let me help you, let me help you. But they told me they don't help. They're not, they're liars. They're just praying. They think they're gonna fix every problem without prayer. And you know that's not true. So, I was fired, I was out of a job, and I knew they were making up stories because I was telling the truth. I knew what they were doing that. So a few days went by, and then Lee contacted me from a common friend of ours that used to work there too. And she called me and she said, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I mean, sure. Well, I'm going by. She said, what can I do to help you? And I said, really? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, what can you do to help me? She said, well, you tell me, what your family needs. You tell me, what would you like to do? I heard you lost your job. You know, so I told her my life story, you know, and I said, and she said, what would you like to do? Then we became in contact with Sheila from Life Choices. And then I sat down with her and we discussed what can we do. And she said, what would you like to do? And I said, well, the problem is, I cannot go on the street and tell people my story, because then they're gonna say she mishandled narcotics, and nobody's going to listen to me, because they're gonna believe their story, because I don't know how to prove that it was a lie. So I knew my first step was to clear my name from the accusation that they have done against me, so then I can move on to tell as many years as I can what they were trying to hide. So then, with the divine mercy of God, Team Casey, Sheila Casey, came through as my savior, as my angel sent from heaven. And I told him my story, and he said, I believe you. I want to help you. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. But I believe you. I know you're telling the truth. And I had some proof, because obviously you don't get to a courtroom without just your word, right? So I did have proof of a lot of the things that I was talking about. And the fortunate people who were in that trial room, which I know I see familiar faces that accompanied me through those 14 days in the courtroom, could see the lies too when all the proof got presented. And that moment when he decided to defend me, I felt the hand of God. My faith was not the strongest before, and I'm not gonna make excuses that it was only Planned Parenthood. I think that this new world really tells you that God and religion are just a made-up excuse in our heads. That we don't have to follow the Lord's word. We don't have to do what that book that a lot of people refer to says. So my faith wasn't the strongest. But in the last 2.5 years, my faith started growing and growing. And the divine mercy became an image that I will see everywhere. I remember there was this day that during the litigation process, when I was supposed to go and listen to someone give testimony, and it wasn't going to be a pleasant one. It was a doctor I was accusing. And as I'm driving to my lawyer's office, I get into this stoplight, and then I see the divine mercy as a bumper sticker. Who sees that a lot? I have never noticed that anyone had a divine mercy sticker. And I said, that must be a sign. It has to be a sign. So then I keep seeing more and more and more of the divine mercy, in the moments that I felt that I was losing it, because I did have those moments. That very first Christmas when I had lost my job and we were having a hardship, it was just me and my kids. Sheila and Lynn came up to me and said, here's some gift cards. We want you to buy Christmas present to your kids. And I said, are you crazy? Yes. We already sounded crazy, right? So I said, wow. I said, no one, all my so-called friends, the so-called employees that were so angry when they heard what happened to me, disappeared. They were nowhere to find. It had only been 2 months and none of them were speaking to me. No one was there to say, hey, here's some gift cards so you can buy presents for your kids. But those two crazy ladies did. And they made a time that it was supposed to be struggling and hard better. They made a time that I didn't know what was going to happen to me better. And with divine mercy by my side, the mercy of God always standing by me, we reach out the courtroom, and 9 people, because 10 of them, but one was pro-life, and then the other 9 were pro-choice because they were chosen by their lawyers, decided that I was telling the truth. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I certainly didn't know we're going to take 2 years going like this. But I've been waiting for that to be over, because that was my first step. That was the step to clear my name. So then when I stand in front of all of you and in front of all those people that follow them, and I tell you what I saw in there is true, then you will believe me, because my name was clear. Because 9 people were strong supporters of Planned Parenthood decided that they were lying and that I was telling the truth. And that everything that I saw in there was true. The people outside praying for me were there for me at the end. Those crazy people praying for me at the end. Through many years, I saw the 40 Days for Life campaign. There was a point I became their spy because they knew I was Catholic and my mother was Catholic. And they will, Mayra, can you bring the bulletin so we can see where they're going to do this 40 Days for Life? And I said, are you serious? They're going to pray, just like you said. What else did they do? They pray. So, during the 40 Days for Life campaign, the no-show rate is higher than the other times of the year. So it works, because more people show up to pray. So then when patients come and they see a lot of people praying, they leave. They just don't stay. They don't go in the driveway. They don't even call. They just leave. I remember a few years ago, I don't know if some of you remember this, you guys organized a chain of holding hands. And then it made like a human change. That day we had over 50% no-show rate. So there must be a reason why, when a lot of you are praying, people don't walk in there. I know they're not afraid of you because, you're there every day. There's a lot of Sundays that a lot of people are outside of Glendale and people still walk in. But when they just see you praying and when they see you just loving them and you just telling them, I love you, even if you don't listen to me right now, you still walk in there, and then when they walk out, you tell them, we love you, we want to help you. So then you won't ever have to make this decision ever again in your life. Because just like he was saying about how in the past the Democrats, is that what you were called? Yeah, it was mostly the pro-choice people that said abortion should be rare, right? Abortion should be unthinkable. To tell women that makes them powerful is sad. It's very, very sad to tell them having an abortion makes you a powerful woman. It is not. It's not true. I have daughters. I have a daughter. I have nieces. I have my friends' daughters, and I certainly never told them. I always told them, you don't want to ever have to get there, because you don't know. You don't know the harm that it will cause you. Even if they tell you, you know what, having an abortion is less stressful and less dangerous, and there's less complications than carrying a baby to full term. There is complications. I've known a lot of patients that had an abortion and they're today unable to have children. Do they regret it? Of course they do. They regret it. Why? Because that's the reason why today they can't have children. I know a lot of patients that started on birth control where they were only 14 years old. And today they're 32 and can't get pregnant because of the birth control. So when you tell women that's rare, that's not rare. I've seen it. I've seen it a lot. You can't tell them that. And when you have a doctor that doesn't care of the harm he's doing to patients, that it's careless, that he's just there without caring what happens to the women that it's on that table, because to him it's just a job that pays really well for his bills. And you walk and bring your daughters in there, or your girlfriend or your spouse or your loved one to him. You really don't know that you're leaving your loved one in the hands of someone like him. And who's to tell us that he's the only one? No. Why? Because in my last few months, I've met former employees of other affiliates from other Planned Parenthoods all over the United States, and they've seen similar things of what I've seen. So it's not an isolated thing. It's a very common thing in Planned Parenthood, inside the doors of Planned Parenthood. So having the crazies praying outside for 40 days really works. really, really works. Having the crazy people showing love to the people inside and telling them, I'm not here to judge you. It really works. It makes a difference to the patients. It makes a difference to the staff. Even, if it bothers the doctor, there must be a reason. Otherwise, they wouldn't care. But it makes a very strong difference. I really, truly hope that my story helps us go in the right direction to change the heart and the minds of a lot of people like me that were blinded, that didn't know that what I thought it was helping women really didn't mean helping women. Because what I realized through managing an abortion clinic for the first time in 2016 is that every woman that walks through the abortion clinics walks in there sad and leaves even worse. I was trying to tell them, if you feel sad, it's the hormones. It's normal that you feel sad after an abortion because it's the hormones. It is not normal. When you are a mother, you know that from the very first moment you're pregnant, you feel different. Your body is telling you something inside you that you are already loving. So I know, because I have talked to them personally, one-on-one in a room, that they feel sad, that they're not happy to do that. But we are in a society that is being telling them, it's okay, you're supposed to do that. You're supposed to do that to be powerful. You're supposed to do that to be a successful woman. That's what you're supposed to do. Instead of telling them, no, you can have your baby and be a successful lawyer. You can finish your law school. You can finish your doctorate. You can still have a job. So they have been told that they are supposed to do that. But they're sad, and they're not proud, and they're ashamed. And they're ashamed because then I saw them in the other side for their well woman exam or for something else. And the moment you ask them, have you ever had an abortion? 90% of them deny it. So if that makes you powerful, why do you have to deny that you had an abortion? And I could see their chart on the screen. I knew they did, but I still had to ask. And they deny it. And I wouldn't tell them, I know you're lying, I can see you have. Because I don't want to make them feel bad. But that tells me that they didn't feel proud of doing it. As a raised Catholic and working there, I've always said, and this was my excuse, I'm here to support you, I'm not here to judge you, I wouldn't have an abortion ever, and today I realized that was so wrong. My need to have a job made me blind. And today I want to have God guide me to help as many people as I can to change the hearts of people, just like I did to 9 pro-choice jurors in a trial, that I saw the truth inside those doors. And today I'm here because of the crazies in the sidewalk that pray on 116-degree weather in Phoenix, Arizona. In a Sunday, by the way, when everybody should be home just chilling in the pool. I thank you so much for being crazy. Thank you for making me crazy. I want to be crazy just like all of you and help people change their mind and tell the young women that having an abortion does not mean that they're powerful, but the opposite. That power is not an abortion. That it is your body, yes, of course, and your body should be treated like a gift from God, and so anything that comes with it. Thank you so much. I appreciate all the prayers. I appreciate what you do. Please don't give up, because it's your persistence, it's your faith, what has changed people's hearts and minds. And I know that because Planned Parenthood wouldn't fight so hard to remove you from their doors, to remove you from their sidewalk, just like they fought for women not to be able to see their ultrasound. Why? Because they knew the moment they see an ultrasound and listen to a heartbeat, they will change their mind. They know. Because we've seen it. Otherwise, they wouldn't fight so hard on all those issues if they didn't think they will help women change their mind. So I hope you guys hear more about my story, and I hope to join you in this fight. And God will guide us, and I know God is with us, and I know Jesus will take us where we're supposed to be, to change this world that is turning into something that we're not able to stop. So thank you so much. I truly appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Mayra. Our last speaker is Thayer. Sue joined the 40 Days for Life team in 2018 as Director of Outreach. She hails from Storm Lake, Iowa, where she was a longtime center manager for Parenthood. After a direct push from God, Sue led a 40 Days for Life campaign outside her former facility. And within weeks, the abortion center closed. Thank God. Sue has done lots of traveling, sharing her deep passion for life, as well as her insider's knowledge of the abortion industry. As a birth, adopted, and foster mom, I think that covers all. She adores babies and children. Having come full circle, Sue is a living proof that God can forgive and save anyone. Please give a warm welcome to Sue.
Well, it's hard to go after two really great speakers. Mayra, it's nice to meet you. I hope we get to talk after. So, what a story. Well, I'm from Storm Lake, Iowa. When I left there 2 days ago now, it was 18 degrees below zero. I showed you guys a slide, so some of them must see proof. I took a picture of the thermometer on the dashboard. So you guys, you're like chilly here when it hits 60-ish. So think, below that, and then there's zero, and then we're another 18 below that, and then the wind is howling. So then it gets down around 40 below. So it's cold there. And I have a funny picture with that of a drift, a snow drift in front of my house, and I'm on my tippy toes, and I'm trying to reach the top, and it's about 2 feet above my hands. So I think it rained enough this morning at our outdoor event in Phoenix that we would have had to shovel about a foot of snow probably, because it really rained. Well, thanks for coming out. You heard a little bit about my story. Behind me is one of my favorite quotes from Ronald Reagan. We actually put that on the back of our t-shirts for the pregnancy center in Storm Lake. Guaranteed to be like a magnet for angry people, like at the airport or the mall. They run up to you and say, "Who are you to tell me what I can do with my body?" Kind of thing. But that's a great opportunity to engage with people and maybe plant a pro-life seed in their heart. So I'm going to show you a few slides as we go. These are my kids. You heard that some of them are adopted, some are biological. The 3 adopted ones, one of them was conceived in rape, and one of them was born drug addicted, and all 3 of them were unwanted by their birth parents. But I know that they're all thankful they're here. So sometimes we hear people say on the other side of this issue, well, if they're not wanted, they're going to be poor, they're not going to have all these advantages, why not just have them aborted now? You've heard that. And given the opportunity, I love to pull out pictures of my kids and say, well, this one, her mom did a lot of drugs. And she had a lot of seizures and a lot of issues. And if you would have seen her when she was a baby, you might have thought, she's not going to ever be, quote, normal. But she is. And the one that was conceived in rape, so you think about the babies that we don't have here, and you wonder, who all are we missing? We'll never know. So it's a very hard topic. This next one is where I worked at Planned Parenthood. I worked there almost 18 years, probably kind of like Mayra. I thought I was helping women. And the clinic that I managed was family planning only. We didn't do abortions, but I worked in the abortion unit often in other places. So I would often rotate in and spend a day or two here and there in a surgical unit. And if you saw unplanned, it's a lot like that, very difficult working circumstances. I remember vividly the first day that I went to the abortion facility. We probably had about 40 scheduled that day, and it was just like boom, 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 and there was a surgical suite on each side of what we called the products of conception lab, the POC lab. And that would be where we put the baby that was in the jar, the big gallon jar after the abortion. We put it in a little glass bowl and rinse it and try to piece it back together and see if we had all the parts before the mom could get up and go to the recovery room. And I remember that day, this was something that had never occurred to me, but there was 3 little arms, and they were, I don't know, probably maybe 13 weeks, and they're severed at the shoulder. And I said, why is there 3? And she said, oh, it was twins. Here's another spine, here's another skull. So we pieced 2 babies back together. And I stood there, and I said, do you tell the mom? And she says, oh no, I just upset them. So I left there that day. I had 2 biological children at that time, and I probably should have left the abortion industry then, but what it really did was make me think, well, we really need family planning because surgical abortions are horrible. And so I spent the next almost 18 years working in Storm Lake, Iowa at the Planned Parenthood as the center manager. I was a sexuality educator all over Northwest Iowa. It's really easy to get into schools. If you are Planned Parenthood, you just call the health teacher or the biology teacher or the home ec teacher and say, hey, I work for Planned Parenthood. I'd love to come in and talk about decision making or birth control or sexually transmitted infections. Teachers don't want to teach that stuff. So it's really easy to have them say, oh yeah, come on in. So that was how I got in. It was really my job to become friends with the kids so that, well, I would say, you know, you may not be having sex yet, but you will. And when you do, we're here. And you can park in the back. We'll never tell your parents if you've been there or not. So I did a lot of horrible things. And over my years there, it got worse and worse. And I kind of went in one direction towards the Lord, and Planned Parenthood went even further down the path towards just a total loss of any morals. But I heard safe, legal, and rare. That was what we always talked about. We want abortion to be safe, legal, and rare. And of course now if you follow the news or watch any pro-life news at all, abortion advocates say they want it free, on demand, and without apology, right? I mean, they've come a long ways from saying, it's only 3% of what we do. You know, now they're very proud of their abortion services. So, so finally, about 2007, Planned Parenthood made an announcement that they were going to be doing webcam abortion. And if you haven't heard of that, it is a chemical or medication abortion, like RU486. If you saw Unplanned, Abby had one of those. It's a little brown bag of stuff that they take home from the abortion facility, take the second set of pills at home, and that starts the contractions. They deliver the baby at home. And we would have women, actually, you know, they do it now up to day 77. So if you know anything about fetal development, you know that they will actually see a little tiny fetus. But they would put that in a Ziploc bag and bring it back and say, you didn't tell me I'd see a baby. You know, Planned Parenthood calls it products of conception, contents of uterus. You see it's just a heavy period. You may see a little tissue, some clots, but you know, it'll be fine. We would say that to get them to do it. So anyway, they started doing these webcam abortions, and I knew that I was not going to be doing that. I felt like I had done enough stupid things in my life. and I wasn't gonna add that to the list. And God was working on me. In my own heart, I had discovered Christian radio, and that was really blessing me in a profound way. And I actually bought a radio and took it into Planned Parenthood, and would listen to Christian radio while I was working. Oh, okay. God was working on my heart, and I kept thinking, what I'm doing here is not right. And on Christian radio, they talked about abortion, and I would turn the radio down, so I didn't have to be convicted really by what I was doing, because I liked my job. I made a lot of money, had great benefits, so I didn't really want to get fired. But Warren Buffett, have y'all heard of Warren Buffett? He was the guy that bought all the stuff for the webcam abortions, because all the managers were like, how are we going to afford all this? Because all these centers in Iowa were going to have ultrasound machines and webcams and fiber optics and new computers and all this stuff. And they said, oh, we have a donor, Mr. Buffett's going to buy all of that because he wants an abortion facility on every corner. So the whole clinic was wired for sound, and they could see us, you know, and it was really an odd thing to experience after all those years of kind of being there solo. But I heard this interview on Christian radio, and it was with Iowa Right to Life. And I thought, that's who I need to call. I need to tell them about this webcam abortion thing. And maybe they can stop it, because I just couldn't think that it would be legal to do that. So I called Iowa Right to Life from Planned Parenthood. Not my smartest moment. But I told them what was going on, and I'm kind of like, I'm calling from a Planned Parenthood facility. And they didn't believe me, of course. But finally, over a couple months, I shared a lot of information with them, and ultimately got fired, pretty much for doing that. But getting out was a relief, and I had decided that I'm done with the controversy of Planned Parenthood. I'm going to have a normal job. I had told Iowa Right to Life what was going on in there, and I was good to go. And that really worked well for me for a couple years, but God kept nudging my heart, and I knew they were doing abortions there, because I stayed in touch with, some of the workers there, and I knew they were doing abortions in Storm Lake, Iowa. Storm Lake is like, I don't know, 2 city blocks here. It's just a little tiny town, and everybody knows everybody, and here they were doing abortions there. And it worked on my heart that they were doing that. And like, I couldn't drive down the street. It was on Erie Street. I would have to go around because I couldn't drive past it. And finally, God just was like, not gonna take no for an answer. Have you had that happen where he's like, you gotta do this? And so I shared this story about webcam abortion with a handful of people in Storm Lake, and they were just broken by hearing that they were doing that there. And they said, well, what can we do? And I said, well, I don't know. There's this thing called 40 Days for Life, and I don't know much about it, but I know Planned Parenthood hates it. So let me go look it up. So I went home. This was the fall of 2011, and it was like the last day to sign up for the fall vigil. And I kind of had an out-of-body experience where I went and grabbed my credit card, and there was a small payment you had to pay to register, and I put that on my credit card and sent it, and I thought, oh boy, what have I done now? Because I really, small town, I've been Planned Parenthood all those years, now suddenly I'm thinking, oh, they're gonna think I've lost my mind, I'm becoming crazy. Yes, I thought, I'm becoming one of them. And so we had meetings, and we were leading up to the kickoff for 40 days, and we'd have like 1 or 2 new people come, just small little groups, and I was thinking, this is gonna fail miserably, they're not gonna do this. My town, and I was calling people saying, hey, did you know they're doing abortions here in Storm Lake? And of course nobody knew that, but I said, we're going to do this prayer vigil down there, would you come down and pray for an hour? And I had people say, why do we need to pray for a whole hour? I can just drive by and pray. Seriously, I'm not kidding. And I was like, we have work to do here. Well, finally, we're getting close to the kickoff, and you put the hours in the computer. Have y'all signed up for a 40 days vigil and gone out and prayed? If you haven't, today's the day. You need to sign up. But you can go online to 40daysforlife.com and then you can pick like an hour or two or whatever you want to go down and pray in front of the abortion facility, and it helps the leaders like Jim and Nancy and Tammy know that somebody's going to be there. So I was trying to put those hours in the computer and I couldn't get it. I needed help. And I was thinking in my head that we would be down there and pray Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from noon to 5. So I thought, that's funny, right? And so I had to call 40 Days for Life, and I got Laura Muzica. She worked at 40 Days for Life at the time. Now she heads up Sidewalk Advocates for Life. But she's the one that answered, and I was like, I can't get these hours in there, and I'm super crabby, and all the stuff. And she goes, oh, I'll help you, what hours? Well, I told her. And she goes, we usually pray for 24 hours a day for the 40 days. And I was like, well, that won't work here. I said to her literally, have you ever been to rural Iowa? We have not that many people. And she said, well, how about trying 12 hours a day? And I said, no, that's 480 hours. It's not gonna, I can't even get one person to come down with me and pray. And she said, Sue, why would you limit God? So that was convicting to me. And I was like, well, I guess we don't want to limit God, so fine, let's do it from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and I will fail publicly. That's what I was thinking. It was all about me, because I didn't want to look like a fool. So, Zoe, my youngest one, was in a stroller. So we go down the first day, and I was like, it's chilly. Now, when I say chilly, I don't mean 70. It was probably like 20. And I said, Lord, I think we'll just pray for my car, because you hear our prayer no matter where we are, right, Lord? Like if I'm in the shower, the bathroom, the kitchen, my car, you hear my prayer. And he said, get out of your van and stand on the sidewalk. And I really didn't want to see my former coworkers. And I knew what they were going to say about me, and they did. And we had quite a 40 days of back and forth discussion. My former coworkers and I, they thought that I had indeed lost my mind and had a lot of choice language, you know what I mean.
You joined the dark side.
Yeah, crossed over to the dark side. Yeah, I pretty much heard it all, but it was worth it. And in the early days of our vigil, first week or so, we have Catholics and Protestants and evangelicals, and they're not praying together. And I was like, so God healed that even, and within a week or so, they were all praying together, and it was good. And by His grace, we had every minute of those 480 hours covered in prayer. I don't know how we did it. It wasn't anything we did, really. God honored our feeble attempts, and no one has ever been less prepared to lead a 40 Days for Life vigil than me. But somehow it filled, and I don't know if we could ever do it again now, but at that particular moment in time, it worked. And we got to the end, and somehow 40 Days for Life found out I used to work there. And I didn't think that was a big deal, so I never said anything, And Sean Carney and David B. Wright called me together one time, and they were like, is this Sue Thayer? And I'm like, yeah. And they said, did you used to work at Planned Parenthood? I said, yeah. And they said, at the place where you had the 40 Days for Life vigil? And I'm like, yeah, why? And they said, well, that's kind of cool. Nobody would come out of Planned Parenthood and then led a 40 Days for Life campaign. Will you be on our webcast? And I was like, no. I failed speech, that's what I said. In high school, I fell off the stage. That was my best speech, really. Hit the garbage can, and it flew over and hit the wall. I'm not kidding either, I'm not exaggerating. That was my best one, too. So when they said that, all that came flooding back, and I was like, I believe I'll pass. And they said, it's on the phone and we'll ask questions. So I was like, all right. So I ended up doing that. Found out that 40 Days for Life leaders have a morbid curiosity about what kind of person used to run a Planned Parenthood, and then how they got out. And then for Pete's sake, she ran 40 Days for Life vigil. So they wanted to talk to me. So I was getting calls and stuff, and that was fine. And I had my day job where I'd work and try to feed the kids and all that. But finally, a month or so after we finished the vigil, 2 months after, Planned Parenthood announced it was closing in Storm Lake. And there were 29 abortion facilities, Planned Parenthood abortion facilities in Iowa. Storm Lake was the first of 21 that have closed. Yeah, praise God. So this is the St. Mary's Catholic School that came down to pray. There is a picture of webcam abortion. That kind of shows what it's like. The pills are in 2 separate vials, and then the doctor at her computer can push a button that pops open that drawer, and she watches via Skype-like connection while the lady takes the pills. It's nasty. And then that kind of brings us to why Planned Parenthood is like they are. This is what it's founded on. If you haven't ever looked at Margaret Sanger, she's the founder of it. And this is one of her nicer quotes. Really bad stuff. And they still subscribe to this garbage today. This lady is Debbie Nucatella. She was a top-level physician at Planned Parenthood who trained the abortionists. And she talks in one of the David Delight and Sandra Merritt videos about how she crushes above the thorax and below the thorax, so the specimens are fresh. Heart, lung, liver, thymus, they want them as fresh as possible. In court, for David Delighting, they had an abortionist say that they manipulate the woman's cervix so that they can deliver the babies whole, because the specimens are fresher. And I know that's hard to hear. If you haven't watched those videos, you must. They're, 4 or 5 years old now? But there's some that haven't even been released yet, because Planned Parenthood slapped him with a court order, so they couldn't release them. So the worst ones aren't even out yet. And these will cause you to lose sleep at night. So, and these are human babies that they do this to, living human babies. Well, I'm not going to read all this. You can skim through it while I'm talking, but the Planned Parenthood's annual report came out last month, and their income from our taxpayer dollars is up. Abortions are up, and any medical services they perform, like pap smears and breast exams, are down 72, 68% respectively. So that's bad news, but probably the best thing in there is the second from the bottom. Planned Parenthood lost 400,000 donors. So if you get on social media at all and watch any of the pro-life channels, you will see the crazy, and not the crazy good people, the crazy bad people, and how they behave, and the Planned Parenthood supporters. And I appreciated your talk, because I have actually referred to them as pro-abortions, pro-abortion people, because Planned Parenthood really isn't pro-choice. Mayra, you talked about, we turned the screen away so that women couldn't see that image, and the doctor was always turned down. They couldn't hear it, because we wouldn't make the sale of the abortion if they could see the image or hear the heartbeat. And if they're really pro-choice, wouldn't they give the woman their choices? An abortion is a choice, but so is adoption and prenatal care, and those aren't mentioned. So they're really not pro-choice. But anyway, they've lost $39.5 million in donations. Yeah, that's very big. Sometimes people say, where are women going to go if all the Planned Parenthoods close? That's one of the angry women in the airport that run up to you screaming, where am I supposed to go then? Well, here's a great answer for them. Federally qualified health centers outnumber Planned Parenthoods 20-1. And at a Planned Parenthood, you don't get quality health care, typically. It's done by non-medical staff. We had a nurse practitioner in 2 hours a week, and that was it. We were never inspected. It's not good. Federally qualified health centers operate on a sliding fee scale, just like Planned Parenthood, but they have real physicians, they have full office hours, they have translators, some of them have dental clinics. So it's a win-win for women, for families, and for taxpayers. And this says there's 665 Planned Parenthoods, there's now 618. But who's counting? That's the sperm and the egg meeting. I love that picture because, you know, microscopes now they're pretty advanced, and they can show the moment they meet and there's a little spark. You know? And there's unique DNA there from the moment that they touch. Like it's never been on Earth before and never will be again. You know? I mean, like, how cool is that? And the very definition of life is it changing, is it growing? And it's doing both of those things. You know, it goes 2 cells, 4, 8, 16, you know? And so it's life, it's alive, and it deserves a chance to live. Numberofabortions.com. You must check that out. It's like a clock, a counter. And if you write that number down and then go home and look at it now, it will have gone up. Because I did this a few days ago. So, and it'll say, from the time you've logged onto this website, this many babies have died. I know. It motivates me to keep going. It's a valid question, right? In the United States of America, if you mess with an eagle egg, you're probably going to go to jail. You know, and we love our eagles. It's our national bird. No one would hurt an eagle. But we turn a blind eye to almost 62 million babies that have been ripped apart. Our values are skewed. The red is abortion deaths, bigger than all the others combined. If they found a single cell on Mars, they would say they had life, right? But yet so many scientists with master's degrees and PhDs will still say, well, it's not a baby until it takes its first breath. Or, I mean, we have the governor of Virginia, whose name I will not mention, that says, well, keep the baby comfortable and have a discussion about what to do. This is a full-term, living, healthy baby that he's talking about. Yeah, infanticide. 2019 was the year of infanticide. And we have got to speak up for that. We cannot allow this to happen. Oh, this little guy, he has an extra chromosome, but he's still the Gerber baby. And this was 2 years ago, but he's just too cute. I had to put him in here. You know, Greenland or Iceland, one of them says, well, we've eradicated Down syndrome. They haven't eradicated anything. They just killed all the babies that have it. Mm-hmm. He looks pretty happy, doesn't he? One of my favorite signs. I know 20 families that are ready to adopt your baby today. I've never met this guy, but I hope to. I mean, I bet that he has a list on the back of his sign with phone numbers. That would be my hunch, is that he's ready to stand in and do it. You know, Mayra talked about thinking, well, they're not going to help us. You know, they won't help. They're not really here to help. They just stand there and take up space and cause a problem. But they really are there to help. And I could go on and on and on about 40 Days for Life people that have gone the second mile. Like a woman turns around, well, here, let me take you to lunch. Well, here's some money for what you need. Well, I can go with you to your doctor's appointment. I mean, there's just a lot of really good people out there. Here's another favorite sign. We talked about how they don't get to look at the ultrasound. Just a reminder, look at the ultrasound. And I love the look on his face. I mean, he looks like he means business. Just look at the ultrasound. Yeah. Because if they'll do that, like 90% of them turn around and leave. That's why the buses in front of the abortion facilities are so effective. Because women can go in and see their baby. The March for Life. I know you guys are far away from DC, but if you have a chance ever, you should go. I'm the oldest person there. I put on Facebook, seriously, the average age of the March for Life is 20. It's all happy kids, and they've got signs, and the high schoolers, you can tell our high schoolers because the people trying to keep them corralled put like bright green hats on them. You know, you can see them bopping through the crowd. But this year, they don't like to put a number on the people there, but I think it was the biggest I mean, I was in front of the stage because I wanted to see the main speaker.
Yes.
And so I was like right in front so I could stand like this, but I couldn't even get to the march. I mean, it was so big. It was just incredible. So, and the enthusiasm there and the love for life and the lack of problems, you know, when you put 500,000 people in close quarters like that, shoulder to shoulder for several hours, not a problem, you know, and all those kids, and it's just really fun. So I think the pro-life movement is in good hands. This shows the map of 40 Days for Life. These are the places that have vigils. So if you go out and you feel like, I'm all alone and there's no one else here, there are, well, let's see, 506 other locations starting Wednesday. So if you go out and pray, all around the world, there'll be people praying too. And we've been in 61 countries. We've had over 1 million volunteers, and this was all started by Sean Carney and David B. Wright in front of Abby Johnson's abortion clinic. And I love to think about, they stood out there for 8 years before Abby left. And you had people praying for you, I had people praying for me. What if they would have given up? You know? Because Mayra and I, Abby, all the workers that come out are just people. We're just people, hard-hearted. You know, there's a callousness that sets in when you see what we see all the time. And it takes a while to peel those layers away, but when you stand out there and show the love of Jesus Christ and don't give up on them, you're peeling off a layer. And when you wear a pro-life shirt to the airport and you're ready to have somebody yell at you and you turn around with a smile on your face, and sometimes I'll just say, did you know an unborn baby has a heartbeat by day 20? You know? And my kids are like, Mom, you are so old that no one can argue with you. Because I'll say it like that and people are just like, really? And I'll say, yeah, check it out, Google. So all those opportunities to engage people, whether you're praying in front of an abortion facility or you're in the airport or you're talking to your neighbor over the fence, those are all great opportunities to share why you're pro-life. I remember being too afraid to put a pro-life sign in my yard. I was like, I don't want anybody to know that. And boy, that's long gone now. I learned how to do Facebook finally, so I can be on there and share pro-life stuff. And I'll get in bed at night and I'll think, no one's yelled at me today. I should probably get back up and post something, because I feel like I'm here to afflict the comfortable. You know, those of us who go to church on Sundays and sit there and we're just comfortable, and then we leave and we don't really think about our faith or God or life or anything else until the next Sunday. I'd love those people to feel uncomfortable, you know, and think, babies are dying right there. You know, what am I going to do about it? What is God calling me to do? And if you look back at my life, it would be like, not footprints in the sand, but heels in the sand, where I go, no, not that. Lord, please, no, not that. Because all the stuff that he's asked me to do is way out of my comfort zone. My box used to be little tiny, and I was happy in there. And you heard just a little bit about my speech story, but I was not comfortable with the microphone or traveling, leaving my kids, any of it. And all those barriers and walls are gone. And he has opened doors for me that I could not have imagined. There's a couple great things about 40 Days for Life. Lots of babies have been saved, and there's more than that. Those are the ones that we know about. It's just a miracle to behold. But lastly, some ways that you can maybe get involved. I have Sean Carney's newest book, My Boss. He wrote a 40-day devotional about how to be pro-life in your everyday life, basically. And I have those here. They're signed by Sean. They're $10 if anyone would like one. And I am happy to answer questions when we're all done. I know we're probably over time. I didn't even ask how long I was supposed to talk, really. And I've probably gone way over whatever time I had. But I'm happy to visit online, or you can email me if you ever have a question or you need help. But you have great resources here in Nancy and Tammy and Jim, and they have been in the trenches for a long time and are well equipped to help with anything that might come up. But we need you on the sidewalk. So we need everybody out there, and you heard my mentality, 15 hours a week is more than we've had before, that's good enough. You know, but we don't wanna limit God. We don't wanna think, well, you know, I'm too busy, or I've got dinner to make, or I've got this thing to do, or whatever it is, it's worth it. And it's the best time you'll ever spend. So I'd encourage you to go to 40daysforlife.com, and you can type in Glendale, Tempe, Phoenix, and look for hours, and you will be blessed, and you will bless others. Thanks so much.
Hi everybody, I just wanted to remind, we are having an opening mass with Bishop Olmsted this coming Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. at St. Mary's Basilica downtown. There's more information on our website. So is it up on yours, Tammy? Yeah, okay, so so check it out. Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. with Bishop Olmsted at St. Mary's Basilica. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy, and thanks to all our speakers. I just want to briefly go over the campaign. You know, there's 3 components of this campaign: prayer and fasting, peaceful vigil. Remember that when we're out there, we're a sign of hope for women considering going in, or families going in, and even after an abortion, we're a sign of mercy for these people. So, and we remain that. So it's important to stay out there. That's why we're out there. And then community outreach, and that's spreading the word around, even if you feel like you're butting your head against people who don't, you know, in their own churches, that it's important to continue, because they need to hear it, and we need, as always, more people involved. So I want to thank you all for coming. Our speakers will be around, campaign leaders. That's it, thank you.